Welcome to episode 2 of Chewy Talks, actually from the Kurdistan Pavilion in Davos. Really excited to see this happen. The Kurdish people, for me, have been some of the most oppressed in the world. They have acted with unbelievable integrity. They have striven to have a home state in which they can be safe, and actually it's great to see them starting to assert themselves in this way and trying to promote their economy, their country, their culture, their people as a distinct thing here in Davos. The last couple of days have been really exciting. I haven't really done anything with a consistent plan. I sort of just took the view that I would go along and see what happened. I've met some fantastic people, managed to connect with a lot of other people who shared my values and ideas, which I thought was wonderful. It's been, when people talk about Davos, they tend to think about the World Economic Forum, and anybody who knows me or has ever read my Twitter feed will be very well aware of my views on the socialist technocracy that unfortunately runs most of our lives. And that the WEF is, of course, the leading light of that whole subjugation of the masses for the betterment of the very few, the self-appointed very few, which obviously is completely contrary to what I want to accomplish, which is the economic emancipation of humanity, and with that, hopefully, the flowering of real democracy, a future in which we can all participate, in which we can all engage. And actually, one of the projects that we're coming out with this year is the Da Vinci Protocol, the purpose of which is to allow people to capitalize and perpetually commercialize their creative assets. So in the context of the little things that have been going on this week in Davos, a lot of it is AI focused. And actually there was a super speech panel with will.i.am at Ashura House, which has been, I think, probably the destination for the whole of the Davos trip this time. It's actually at the very far end of the promenade from where I am now, and I hadn't made it past there all week. It's just been such a good draw. Really good panels, very good people coming in there. And one of the big topics, obviously, is this whole thing about what AI means, the impact it's going to have on the way we work, the way that our economies operate. And one of the things that I keep talking about is how we end up in a sort of post-AI world, that there are three major economies left for human beings. One is the empathetic economy. It's somebody serving you a cup of coffee, somebody who looks after you when you're unwell. There's a world of a difference between somebody touching your shoulder and saying it's going to be okay, and a machine saying to you it's going to be okay. And actually, speaking of the empathetic economy, standing here in the Kurdish house, a gentleman came in whose name is Faisal. When I first moved to Oberagari without my family after the attempt by others to destroy QPQ, I sent my family back to Ireland, and I'd taken a smaller apartment in Oberagari Zug. I was absolutely distraught. I really missed my wife, my children, profoundly. And I was born and grew up in Saudi Arabia, so the food of my childhood is shawarma. And there was a kebab restaurant underneath where I live in Oberagari, and the guy in there was Kurdish, and he began to speak English to me. My German was terrible then. It's still very bad, but it was terrible then. And he made me the food of my childhood, the shawarma. And I can't believe how much that meant to me, at the time. That's the empathetic economy. That's the economy that we can never lose. But it's a one-to-one economy. Then there's what I call the service economy, which is people fitting plumbing, laying bricks. It's doing the things that actually machines will do very poorly and always will, because ultimately our houses were not designed to be serviced by machines. They were designed to be serviced by people. And then finally you have the creative economy. And the creative economy is that economy that it comes, whether you want to call it divine spark or human, the human spirit, or I don't care what you want to call it. The reality is nobody ever came up with a good idea or a work of art by sitting thinking today I'm going to come up with a good idea. Instead, they come as moments of inspiration. And I personally don't think that large language models, which aren't actually an artificial intelligence per se, they are machine learning, is going to accomplish that same capacity to think in a unique, almost inspired way. So I believe that is actually the only scalable human economy left, and that's the purpose of the Da Vinci Protocol, is actually to allow people to capitalize their intellectual property rights. And that doesn't just mean patents and things like that. It could be a song, it could be an idea, it could be a drawing, it could be lyrics for a song. You know, will.i.am was talking about how does he make sure that his children benefit from his work, not the publishers, not the people who wanted to acquire his work in perpetuity. And this is an answer to all of that. And really, when we talk about the Internet of Economics, we're talking about the machine economy. And when we talk about the Da Vinci Protocol, we're talking about that nexus between the machine economy and the human economy. And in Davos this week, it has been so interesting listening to all the different discussions about what it is. There was a very interesting pitch about a robot that was going to provide care to people and how it should be given citizenship rights, which brought me to a discussion I once had with my mother who studied theology, and the idea that is there a point at which a machine might have sufficient sentience to be said to have a soul, howsoever we want to describe that. These are some of the really exciting questions, discussions that you can have in this environment, and you know what? Just coming here with zero plan, I was working too hard to sit down and actually make a plan about exactly where I would go. And I decided I would just let good fortune guide me as to where I went. And I have been unbelievably lucky. So quite apart from all the AI and the discussions with people around those points, I've also been very pleased to see a big Saudi presence here. You know, I do believe that we're heading toward a multipolar world, and I believe that Saudi Arabia has had a long-standing role as a leader for the Arab world, for the Islamic world, and perhaps a lot of the reason why we're seeing so much strife in that context is a lack of leadership in that way. So it's good to see them asserting themselves here, and I guess maybe that's part of the theme for me of Davos this year. It's been about assertion of self. The Kurdish people, it is incredible to describe the heroism these people showed. When the Yazidi were being slaughtered by ISIS, burned alive, it was the Iraqi army was busy running away. Old Kurdish men with even older rifles beat them. And how such an oppressed people can be told that they have no right to a nation state of their own, a place where they are safe. Perhaps not a popular thing to say amongst the Islamic world, but I see the cause of Israel and the cause of Kurdistan being so very similar. A persecuted people who should have the right to live freely and safely in a nation of their own. And I guess this is all part of what I wanted to talk about within the context of Chewy Talks. I've ducked talking about these things for a long time because I was told that my views and being able to build a blockchain to deliver the economic emancipation of humanity were incompatible. But actually, I've come to the view that they go hand in hand. We must start talking. We must start talking honestly. We mustn't be allowed ourselves to be bullied anymore. So, brings me to the point, I would recommend anybody to come here. It is a marvelous environment in which you can meet people, exchange ideas and discussions. And it has been a really interesting journey for me, talking to so many different people and just allowing myself to be guided by whatever it is that takes us through life, that puts the opportunities in our pathway, the sliding doors, and to go through them. So I'm really looking forward to some of the commercial and investment opportunities that might come from this as we start to move forward with the Gajimaru, the new blockchain, and the Da Vinci Protocol itself. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for joining me this time, and I look forward to giving you the final update on Davos later this week.